Scarcity creates value. This is one of the most fundamental principles of human psychology. The things that are rare, the things that are difficult to obtain, the things that are not always within reach, these are the things people chase, desire, and work hard to keep. The moment something is easily accessible, it is often taken for granted. It's not that people are ungrateful by nature, but familiarity breeds complacency. When someone feels that they can have you whenever they want, that your presence is guaranteed, that your love and attention are permanent, no matter how they treat you, they start lowering their effort. They start taking you lightly. They start prioritizing you the way they once did. And that's where you lose power. Not because you are any less valuable, but because they no longer perceive you as something they could lose. Think about it. The most luxurious brands in the world don't beg people to buy their products. They create exclusivity. They build an aura of rarity. They don't discount their worth just because someone won't buy immediately. They know that their value speaks for itself, and they let the customer come to them. The same rule applies to relationships. If you position yourself as always available, as someone who will never walk away, as someone who will tolerate being undervalued, then you are not giving them a reason to fear losing you. They may like you, they may enjoy your presence, but they do not feel the urgency to keep you. And when there is no urgency, there is no effort. Scarcity creates desire because it introduces the element of loss. The mind is wired to avoid loss more than it is to gain something. People are more afraid of losing $100 than they are excited about gaining $100. This is why the fear of losing you is the strongest motivator for someone to cherish, respect, and prioritize you. But the problem is, most people don't create this sense of scarcity in relationships. They believe that by being overly available, by constantly expressing their love, by proving their loyalty again and again, they will make someone appreciate them more. The truth is, this often has the opposite effect. Over-availability breeds emotional laziness in the other person. When they know you will always be there, they stop feeling the need to put in the work to keep you. To create a sense of scarcity, you must first master the art of presence. Your presence should feel like a privilege, not a given. When you are there, be fully there. Be engaging, be magnetic, be the best version of yourself. But when you are absent, let that absence be felt. Give them space to miss you. When you are always accessible, they don't get the chance to long for you. They don't get the chance to wonder what you're doing, to feel the void of your absence, to realize how much you add to their life. You have to break the pattern of predictability. If they know they can call you anytime and you'll answer, if they know they can ignore you for days and you still be there waiting, if they know they can mistreat you and you won't leave, then where is the fear of loss? There is none. Scarcity is not about playing games of manipulation. It's about recognizing your worth and ensuring that others recognize it too. It's about not making yourself too easy to access at the expense of your own self-respect. It's about understanding that people naturally chase what they feel they can't have, and they become indifferent to what is always available. Think about how people treat time. When they feel like they have endless time, they waste it. But when they know their time is running out, they use it wisely. The same applies to how people treat relationships. When they feel like they have forever with you, no matter what, they won't make an effort to appreciate you. But when they sense that you have standards, that you are willing to walk away if those standards are not met, they suddenly wake up. They suddenly pay attention. They suddenly realize that you are not something they can afford to lose. The moment you shift your mindset from trying to be chosen to being the one who chooses, everything changes. When you stop seeking validation and start valuing yourself, you automatically become scarce. You stop over-explaining. You stop proving your worth. You stop begging for love, attention, and respect. And that shift in energy is powerful. When someone realizes that they don't have unlimited access to you, they start seeing you differently. They start treating you differently. They start fearing the idea of a life without you. But as long as you make them feel like you are always there no matter what, they won't value you the way you deserve. Scarcity is also about emotional control. The less reactive you are, the more control you have. When someone feels that they can easily trigger you, that they can get a reaction from you anytime, that they can manipulate your emotions, they don't fear losing you. They know that no matter what they do, you will still respond, still engage, still care. But when you show that you are unshaken, that you are not easily moved, that you don't beg for attention or validation, they start feeling uneasy. They start wondering why you're not affected. They start questioning their own position in your life. And that's when they start fearing losing you. People crave what feels uncertain. They chase what feels like it could slip away. They put effort into what they know requires effort. But the moment they feel that something is guaranteed, they lose the desire to fight for it. If you want someone to fear losing you, you must embody the mindset of someone who knows their worth. You must understand that being scarce does not mean being distant. It means knowing when to give and when to pull back. It means recognizing that your value is not in how much you give, but in how much they are willing to earn. There is nothing more powerful than the fear of loss. It makes people act. It makes people change. It makes people wake up to the reality of what they have before it's too late. But the only way to create that fear is to stop being so available, to stop overgiving, to stop waiting, and to start living in a way that makes others realize that having you is not a right, it's a privilege. Confidence and detachment are the two most powerful forces that shift the dynamics in any relationship. When you embody confidence, you become magnetic. When you embrace detachment, you become unpredictable. And when you combine both, you become a force that people cannot ignore. The reason most people struggle in relationships is that they attach too much of their self-worth to how they are treated by others. They crave validation, they seek reassurance. They need constant signs that they are loved, valued, and desired. But the moment you need something from someone, you give them power over you. And when you give someone power over you, they start taking you for granted. They start controlling the flow of the relationship, deciding when to give attention, when to pull away, and when to come back. That control is something you must reclaim. The way to do it is not by demanding respect, not by begging for love, not by proving your worth, but by stepping fully into confidence and detachment. Confidence is not about arrogance. It's not about pretending to be something you're not. It's about knowing deep in your soul that you are enough, that you don't need to prove anything to anyone, that you are valuable, not because someone else says so, but because you believe it. People can sense confidence before a word is even spoken. It's in the way you carry yourself. It's in the way you move, the way you speak, the way you look at the world. It's in your energy. And that energy is what makes people respect you, admire you, and ultimately fear losing you. But confidence alone is not enough. Because confidence without detachment can still make you emotionally vulnerable. If you are confident but still deeply attached to the outcome, if you still fear losing someone, if you still feel desperate for their love, if you still react to their every move, then your confidence will be shaken the moment they pull away. Detachment is what keeps you centered. It's what makes you unshakable. Detachment does not mean you don't care. It does not mean you don't love. It means you do not fear loss. It means you are secure within yourself. So secure that whether someone stays or leaves, whether they choose you or not, whether they prioritize you or ignore you, you remain the same. You remain whole. You remain powerful. And that kind of energy is rare. Most people operate from a place of emotional neediness. They chase love. They cling to attention. They fear rejection. And because of that, they become predictable. They become easy to control. But when you master detachment, when you truly understand that no one is your source of happiness except you, everything shifts. Suddenly, you are not the one waiting for a text. You are not the one feeling anxious when they pull away. You are not the one overthinking every word, every action, every change in their mood. Instead, you are the one who moves at your own pace. And you are the one who does not react impulsively. You are the one who others feel they need to work to keep in their life. When someone senses that you are detached, they start questioning their own position. They start wondering why you are not affected the way they expected you to be. They start feeling uneasy about the idea that you could walk away at any moment and not look back. That feeling is what creates the fear of loss. The moment someone knows that you are emotionally dependent on them, they stop fearing losing you. They know that no matter what they do, you will always be there. They know that no matter how they treat you, you will always come back. But when they see that you are confident enough to stand on your own and detached enough to walk away if necessary, they have no choice but to respect you. Detachment does not mean ignoring people or playing games. It means not allowing your emotions to be dictated by someone else's actions. It means staying in control of yourself at all times. It means knowing that no matter what happens, you will be fine. And that kind of energy shifts everything. Because the truth is, people do not value what they feel they can control. They do not chase what is always within reach. They do not prioritize what feels like a guarantee. They are drawn to what feels uncertain. They desire what feels slightly out of reach. They respect what they fear losing. And the only way to create that kind of respect is to show, not just in words, but in your actions, that you are not emotionally dependent on them. Most people struggle with detachment because they equate it with coldness. They believe that if they are detached, they will push people away. But the opposite is true. Detachment makes you more attractive, not less. Because when you are detached, you are not emotionally reactive. You are not chasing, begging, or over-explaining. You are simply existing in your own power. And that energy is irresistible. When someone sees that you are happy on your own, when they realize that you are not waiting on them to complete you, they start feeling the urge to be closer to you. They start feeling the need to prove themselves to you. They start realizing that you are different from everyone else. Because while others are chasing, overgiving, and seeking validation, you are simply living. You are thriving. You are moving forward with or without them, and that is what makes them want to hold on to you. The reason most people fail to trigger the fear of loss in someone is because they are too available, too predictable, too emotionally dependent. They make their entire world revolve around one person, and in doing so, they lose their own sense of identity. But when you embody confidence and detachment, you shift the power dynamic. You no longer wait. You no longer worry. You no longer overthink. Instead, you move with certainty, knowing that you are enough, knowing that you do not need to chase, knowing that you are perfectly capable of walking away if your standards are not met. And when someone senses that, they can't help but fear losing you, because they know deep down that you are not someone they can afford to lose. The power of self-sufficiency is one of the most underestimated forces in human relationships. The moment someone realizes that you do not need them to function, that you are not emotionally or mentally dependent on their presence, something shifts in their perception of you. Most people operate from a mindset of attachment. They seek completion in others. They depend on external validation. And they believe that their happiness is tied to how much attention or love they receive from someone else. But when you step into self-sufficiency, you separate yourself from the masses. You become a rare individual who is whole on their own. An individual who does not seek fulfillment outside themselves, but instead generates their own sense of completeness. This level of self-containment makes you incredibly powerful because the greatest fear people have is losing something they cannot easily replace. And nothing is harder to replace than someone who does not rely on others for their happiness. People tend to take for granted what they believe will always be there. The moment you make yourself too available, too emotionally attached, or too predictable, you become easy to overlook. The unfortunate truth is that when someone knows they have you, when they feel they have won you completely, the urgency to keep you begins to fade. Human nature craves what feels uncertain. People chase what they are not sure they can have. This is why the illusion of scarcity works in marketing, why people rush to buy something that seems limited, why the fear of missing out drives decision-making. The same applies in relationships. When someone senses that you are self-sufficient, that your world does not crumble without them, that your emotions are not dictated by their presence, that you continue to grow and evolve with or without their involvement, they start seeing you in a different light. They begin to understand that you are not someone they can easily replace, that you are not just another person looking for validation, but rather an individual who stands strong in their own power. And the realization of this creates an unsettling feeling within them, a feeling of uncertainty, a feeling of wanting to secure their place in your life, a feeling of fearing that they might lose you to someone who recognizes your value even more than they do. Many people fail to embody self-sufficiency because they confuse it with loneliness. They believe that if they detach emotionally, if they focus on themselves, they will push people away. But the reality is the opposite. Self-sufficiency is not about rejecting love or avoiding connection. It is about ensuring that your sense of self is not dictated by another person. It is about making sure that whether someone chooses you or not, you remain intact. The biggest mistake people make is allowing their entire identity to revolve around another person. They become so deeply invested in someone else's approval that they lose sight of their own individuality. This is why breakups feel devastating, why rejection stings, why people spiral into self-doubt when they feel ignored. Because they have placed their sense of worth in the hands of another person. When you step into self-sufficiency, you reclaim that power. You become the one who decides your value. You become the one who determines your worth. And when someone sees that you are not waiting on them to complete you, that you are not desperate for their attention, that you are perfectly fine on your own, they start seeing you as someone rare, someone irreplaceable, someone they do not want to risk losing. Self-sufficiency is not about arrogance. It is not about pretending that you do not care. It is about developing an internal state of wholeness so powerful that nothing external can shake it. When you have a strong sense of self, your energy shifts. You no longer react impulsively. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself. You no longer operate from a place of insecurity. Instead, you move with certainty, with a quiet confidence that speaks louder than words. And that kind of confidence is intoxicating. It makes people question their own importance in your life. It makes them wonder why you are not as affected as they expected you to be. It makes them fear that they are the ones who might end up losing something valuable. Because when you do not fear losing them, they start fearing losing you. The reason self-sufficiency is so powerful is that it places you in control of your own emotion. When someone realizes that their presence in your life is a privilege, not a necessity, they start treating you differently. They no longer see you as someone they can manipulate with hot and cold behavior, someone they can keep on the back burner, someone they can come back to whenever it is convenient. Instead, they see you as someone who can walk away at any moment and not look back. And that creates urgency. It creates a sense of responsibility. It makes them aware that if they do not prioritize you, if they do not value you, someone else will. Most people live in a state of emotional dependence. They rely on others to fill their emptiness, to validate their worth, to make them feel loved. But those who are self-sufficient have a different aura about them. They are not desperate for love because they already love themselves. They are not waiting for someone to choose them because they have already chosen themselves. They are not afraid of being alone because they know that solitude is not loneliness, it is power. And when you reach this level of self-containment, something incredible happens. People start craving your energy. They start seeking your presence. They start wondering why you are not chasing them like everyone else. They start feeling the need to prove their worth to you instead of the other way around. The truth is, people fear losing what they cannot fully have. When you make yourself too accessible, too emotionally available, too dependent on someone's presence, you lose your value in their eyes. But when you become self-sufficient, when you cultivate your own happiness, when you focus on your own growth, you become someone who cannot be easily replaced. And that realization triggers something deep within them. It makes them think twice before taking you for granted. It makes them reconsider their actions. It makes them afraid of what life would be like without you. Because when they see that you do not fear losing them, they are left with one haunting thought: what if they lose you instead? Emotional detachment is a concept that many misunderstand. Some believe it means cutting off all feelings, becoming cold, or shutting people out entirely. But in reality, emotional detachment is a powerful tool of self-preservation and control. It is the ability to remain unaffected by the emotional turbulence of others, to stand firm in your own inner peace, regardless of what someone else is doing or saying. When you master emotional detachment, you become unpredictable, unreadable, and difficult to manipulate. And when someone cannot predict your emotional responses, they start to fear losing you because they no longer feel a sense of control over your reactions. They begin to realize that they cannot shake you, that their absence will not break you, that their attempts to provoke a reaction will fall flat. This creates an unsettling feeling within them, a fear that you are slipping away, that they no longer have the power to influence your emotions, and that if they do not act fast, they may lose you entirely. One of the most common mistakes people make in relationships is becoming too emotionally reactive. They wear their feelings on their sleeve, making it obvious how much they care, how much they fear losing the other person, how much they crave their validation. This kind of emotional transparency gives the other person a blueprint to your mind. It lets them know exactly how to affect you, how to control you, and how to make you bend to their will. But when you detach, when you no longer respond predictably to their actions, they are left in a state of uncertainty. They do not know where they stand with you. They start questioning whether they are losing their hold on you. And this uncertainty breeds fear. Because people do not fear losing what they know they already have. They fear losing what they are unsure of, what feels unstable, what seems like it could slip through their fingers at any moment. Emotional detachment does not mean you stop feeling. It means you stop overreacting. You stop giving away your emotions so freely. You stop allowing people to see your every thought, your every concern, your every longing for them. It means you learn to mask your inner world, to keep your emotions in check, to respond with calmness rather than desperation. When you do this, you shift the dynamic. Suddenly they are the ones trying to figure you out. They are the ones analyzing your responses, wondering what you are thinking, trying to gauge how much you care. They start feeling anxious because they can no longer read you. And in that anxiety, the fear of losing you begins to grow. Many people believe that by expressing all their emotions openly, they will gain closeness in their relationships. They believe that by showing how much they care, the other person will reciprocate that care. But in many cases, the opposite happens. The more emotionally available you are, the more someone takes you for granted. They assume you will always be there. They believe they can push boundaries, disappear for a while, and still return to find you waiting. But when you become emotionally detached, when you stop reacting to their every move, they begin to realize that you are not someone they can take lightly. they begin to feel a shift in the power dynamic. They start craving the certainty they once had. They begin to fear the thought of you moving on, of you not caring, of you slipping out of their grasp. Most people operate on emotional highs and lows. They get excited when someone shows them attention and devastated when that attention is withdrawn. They live in cycles of emotional dependency, seeking validation and fearing rejection. But when you master emotional detachment, you break free from this cycle. You stop chasing, you stop seeking, you stop craving. You become centered in your own sense of worth. You realize that your value does not depend on whether someone chooses you or not. And the moment you reach this level of emotional control, the people around you take notice. They begin to wonder why you are not reacting like everyone else. They start to feel uneasy because they no longer have the ability to predict your emotions. They start fearing that if they do not do something to secure their place in your life, you may disappear from their reach. There is something deeply unsettling about someone who cannot be shaken emotionally. When you stop responding to someone's attempts to provoke a reaction, when you remain calm in situations where most people would panic, when you show no desperation for their validation, they begin to feel a loss of control. They start to realize that they are the ones who need to step up, that they are the ones who need to make an effort, that they are the ones who might lose something valuable if they do not pay attention. And that realization plants a seed of fear within them, a fear that their place in your life is not guaranteed, that they might not be as important to you as they once thought, that at any moment you could walk away without looking back. Emotional detachment also forces someone to reflect on their own behavior. When they see that you are no longer reacting the way you once did, when they notice that their actions no longer have the same impact on you, they are forced to question themselves. They begin to wonder if they have pushed you too far, if they have neglected you too much, if they have done something to cause this change in your demeanor. This introspection creates anxiety. It makes them feel uncertain, vulnerable, uneasy. They start feeling an urgency to fix things, to regain the emotional connection they once had, to ensure that they are not the ones being left behind. People crave emotional security. They want to feel that they are in control, that they understand the people around them, that they know where they stand in someone's life. When you introduce uncertainty by becoming emotionally detached, you disrupt that sense of security. You make them question themselves. You make them rethink their actions. You make them realize that they are not as in control as they once believed. And this shift in perception is what triggers the fear of losing you. Because when someone feels that they are losing their grip on you, when they feel that your emotions are no longer tied to them, when they realize that you are not as affected as they expected, they begin to chase. They begin to work harder. They begin to feel a deep-seated fear that you are slipping away. And that fear is what makes them value you more, respect you more, and fight to keep you in their life. Scarcity is one of the most powerful psychological forces in human relationships. People instinctively place a higher value on things that seem rare, difficult to obtain, or at risk of being lost. When something is always available, easily accessible, and predictable, it loses its sense of urgency. There is no fear of losing it because it is always within reach. This is why creating a sense of scarcity is one of the most effective ways to trigger someone's fear of losing you. When you are always present, always responding, always showing up, whenever they need you, they begin to assume that you will always be there. They stop putting in effort, they take you for granted, and they begin to believe that no matter what they do, you will not leave. When you become less available, when your presence becomes uncertain, when your time and attention are no longer given freely, they start to notice your absence. And in that absence, they begin to feel a growing sense of unease. People do not appreciate what they think they will always have. It is only when something starts slipping away that they begin to recognize its value. This is a universal truth in human nature. Think about how people react when they realize they might lose something they took for granted. A job, an opportunity, a relationship. The moment they sense that they no longer have full control, their mindset, they go from being comfortable and indifferent to feeling anxious and desperate to keep what they assumed would always be there. This is exactly what happens when you start becoming scarce in someone's life. When you stop being so available, when you are no longer the one always initiating conversations, when you are not always the one making plans, they begin to feel the shift. They begin to wonder why things are changing. They start questioning whether they are losing their place in your life. And that questioning turns into fear, the fear that they may be losing you for good. The reason scarcity is so effective is that it creates contrast. If you have always been available, always responding instantly, always prioritizing them, and then suddenly you are not as reachable, not as present, not as quick to respond, they feel the difference sharply. That change is what creates discomfort. They start to wonder if they did something wrong. They start analyzing past interactions, trying to figure out where things changed. And the more they think about it, the more it begins to consume their mind. They begin to crave your attention in a way they never did before. The balance of power shifts. And now they are the ones feeling uncertain, the ones feeling the need to chase, the ones realizing that your presence in their life is not guaranteed. Scarcity is not about playing mind games or being manipulative. It is about valuing yourself enough to not be excessively available to someone who does not reciprocate your energy. It is about creating a natural sense of importance around your presence. Think about successful people. They do not give their time away freely to just anyone. Their time is limited, their focus is selective, and as a result, people value them more. When someone sees that you are not always accessible, that you have other priorities, that your time is something they must earn, they start to respect it more. They start to see you as someone who is not desperate for their validation. And this realization creates an internal shift in how they perceive you. You go from being someone they assume would always be there to someone they fear losing. One of the biggest mistakes people make in relationships is overcompensating when they feel someone pulling away. Instead of creating scarcity, they do the opposite. They try harder, they reach out more. They become overly available in an attempt to bring the other person closer. But this only reinforces the idea that you are always there, always waiting, always willing to give more than you receive. The correct response is to do the opposite. Instead of chasing, you pull back. Instead of proving your worth, you let your absence speak for itself. When you stop being the one who is always available, you force the other person to make a choice, either step up and match your energy or risk losing you. And when they realize that you are not someone they can take for granted, their fear of losing you intensifies. This approach works because it is rooted in a fundamental human instinct. When something becomes scarce, people naturally desire it more. This is why exclusive brands, limited time offers, and high-value individuals all command more attention and respect. They do not beg to be noticed. They allow their scarcity to create demand. The same principle applies in relationships. When you create a sense of scarcity, when you are not always available at their convenience, when they start to feel that your presence is not guaranteed, their perception of you changes. They no longer see you as an option, they see you as a priority. Another key aspect of scarcity is unpredictability. If someone always knows exactly when and how they will hear from you, they do not have to think about it. There's no mystery, no uncertainty, no reason to feel a sense of urgency. But when your presence becomes less predictable, when they do not always know when they will see you, when they have to put in effort to get your attention, they begin to feel a growing sense of discomfort. That discomfort fuels the fear of losing you. Because now they do not have the certainty they once had. They do not know if you are thinking about them. They do not know if they are still as important to you as they once were. And the more they think about it, the more they feel the need to act, to secure their place, to make sure they do not lose you. People want what they cannot easily have. The moment you become too accessible, too predictable, too eager to give, they subconsciously devalue you. But when you become scarce, when your time and attention must be earned, when they are not always sure if they have you or not, they begin to feel the weight of your absence. And that absence creates longing, uncertainty, and most importantly, fear. Fear that someone else might capture your attention. Fear that they have already lost their grip on you. Fear that they may never get back what they once took for granted. This is why creating scarcity is so powerful. It shifts the dynamic. It places you in a position of control, and it forces them to recognize that your presence is not something they can afford to lose. Emotional detachment is one of the most powerful strategies in shifting the balance of power in any relationship. When you are emotionally detached, you are no longer controlled by fear, anxiety, or the need for external validation. You move from a position of chasing approval to a position of quiet strength. People can sense when you are emotionally independent, and that sense of security creates a magnetic pull. When you no longer react impulsively to someone's actions, when you no longer crave their attention or overanalyze their behavior, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability creates intrigue, mystery, and a deep fear of loss. People expect emotional reactions. They expect you to respond immediately when they pull away. They expect you to chase when they create distance. They expect you to seek reassurance when they withdraw affection. But when you don't do what they anticipate, when you remain composed, unbothered, and focused on your own life, they begin to question their own importance in your world. That question is what triggers the fear of losing you, because now they are no longer sure where they stand. They start wondering why you are not reacting the way they expected. And the more they think about it, the more uncertain they feel. Emotional detachment is not about being cold or heartless. It is about maintaining control over your emotions instead of allowing them to control you. It is about refusing to let another person's behavior dictate your self-worth. When you detach emotionally, you stop seeking validation. You stop overthinking every word, every action, every response. You stop living in a constant state of insecurity, waiting for someone to affirm your value. Instead, you become self-sufficient. You focus on your own growth, your own happiness, and your own goals. And in doing so, you send a powerful message. You are not dependent on anyone to feel whole. That realization alone creates a deep sense of fear in the other person. Because when someone senses that you do not need them, that they do not have the power to shake you emotionally, they begin to feel their own insecurity rise to the surface. When you are emotionally detached, you stop reacting to small provocations. You do not engage in unnecessary arguments. You do not waste time trying to prove your worth. You do not lower your standards to accommodate someone who does not respect your energy. This creates a powerful shift. Suddenly, the person who once took you for granted starts noticing that their actions no longer have the same effect on you. They try to test you, but you remain unaffected. They try to trigger an emotional response, but you stay composed. They try to create distance, expecting you to chase, but instead you let them go. And that moment, when they realize that their actions no longer control your emotions, is the moment they begin to fear losing you. There is a psychological principle at play here. People value what they must work for. When you are overly emotional, when you react to everything, when you make it clear that their approval dictates your happiness, they subconsciously start seeing you as someone who lacks control. But when you detach, when you make it clear that your happiness is not dependent on them, they see you differently. They start to view you as someone who is rare, someone who is confident, self-assured, and in control. And people fear losing what they cannot control. Emotional detachment also creates an air of mystery. When you are always available, always reacting, always explaining yourself, there is no mystery. The other person knows exactly what you are thinking, exactly how you feel, and exactly how to get a reaction from you. But when you become emotionally detached, when you stop explaining yourself, when you stop reacting to every little thing, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability keeps people on edge. They start questioning everything. Why aren't you reacting the way you used to? Why do you seem so calm? Have they lost their influence over you? These questions create uncertainty, and uncertainty creates fear. The moment someone starts questioning where they stand with you, the moment they feel like they may have lost their hold on you, is the moment they start valuing you more. They start putting in more effort. They start seeking your approval instead of the other way around. They start chasing because now they are the ones who feel unsure. This is the power of emotional detachment. It reverses the dynamic. It places you in a position of strength. It shifts the energy from one of desperation to one of quiet confidence. Another key aspect of emotional detachment is learning to enjoy your own company. When you truly love and value yourself, you do not feel the need to constantly seek attention or validation from others. You are at peace whether someone stays or leaves because your sense of self-worth is not tied to them. This kind of self-sufficiency is rare, and when someone sees that you are completely fine without them, it triggers their deepest fear, the fear of being replaced. People want to feel irreplaceable. They want to believe that they hold a special place in your life. But when they see that you are just as happy, just as fulfilled, just as successful without them, it forces them to reevaluate their position. They begin to wonder if they ever had as much power over you as they thought, and that uncertainty eats away at them. Emotional detachment is also about breaking patterns. If you have always been the one to reach out first, to initiate conversations, to fix problems, to make things right, then suddenly stopping that pattern creates shock. The other person is left wondering what changed. They start replaying past interactions, searching for signs. They start feeling the weight of your absence. And in that absence, they begin to feel the fear creeping in. Another important element of emotional detachment is protecting your energy. When you are emotionally invested in someone who does not appreciate you, you drain yourself. You spend hours overanalyzing texts, trying to read between the lines, trying to figure out what they are thinking. You waste time waiting for them to notice you, waiting for them to value you the way you deserve. But when you detach, you take back your power. You no longer waste energy on things that do not serve you. You focus on yourself, your growth, your happiness. And in doing so, you naturally command more respect. When you master emotional detachment, you become someone who is highly valued. You are no longer easily swayed by emotions. You do not act out of desperation. You do not chase people who do not reciprocate. Instead, you remain composed, confident, and self-sufficient. And that energy is irresistible. People are drawn to those who are secure within themselves. They fear losing people who do not fear losing them. And when they sense that you are truly content on your own, that you are not waiting around for their validation, that you have detached emotionally from their approval, they begin to fear what life would be like without you.